Hi everyone, it's me, your boy, Uncle Melty, the host of the Metal Meltdown. And today, we're gonna talk about something that might make you a little bit uncomfortable. Something that might make a lot of you a lot uncomfortable. In fact, we're going to get political. Like, actually political, might I add. Not just me going, oh, this band talks about something vaguely political, or I mention non-binary pals, and therefore you are reminded that non-binary and trans people exist, and you have a little fucking freak out because, grr, I've made it political! How dare you acknowledge that this music is vaguely political, and also how dare you remind me that trans and non-binary people exist! Woke! Politics! Woke! Not that shit. We're getting actually, genuinely, truly, absolutely political. So much so, I need a drink. I mean, I always need a drink. It's me. I always need a drink. But today I really need a drink. Cool, here we go. So Andrew Lee is right and did nothing wrong. Cheers. This is gonna be fun. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, who may require additional backstory and context, Andrew Lee is an Asian American metal musician, probably best known for his work with Ripped to Shreds and Hukongo Grind Time. He is also the owner of Outrageous Weeb Power Productions and the co-owner of Nameless Grave Records, and 10 days ago, he released a video called How Heavy Metal Upholds White Supremacy. In this video, Andrew Lee talks about heavy metal, hard rock, punk, and extreme music play perhaps an unwitting and unintentional role, but nevertheless, in upholding white values in North America and around the world. He talks about his experiences being an Asian American metal musician and also as being an Asian American living in the United States of America. He also talks about the shared experiences of being a person of color, of being queer, of being an immigrant, of being a member of some kind of ethnic or religious minority, and the stereotypes that you have to deal with, the abuse and harassment that you often have to deal with. In doing so, he also talks about how this pretty common idea that metal is this big, loving, inclusive brotherhood of people that just wants to share music and we're all outsiders and we're all trying to fit in and blah, blah, blah. That's a giant fucking lie. Because more often than not, non-white people just do not feel welcome in this metal scene. They do not feel that they have been represented in the metal scene. They do not feel that there is a place for them in the metal scene. And he talks about cultural appropriation, how Western bands co-opt like certain symbols and certain ideas for their own benefit. And he talks about how global political events over the course of the past 50 to 100 years have actively shaped how people view him and how people view really any kind of like Asian contribution to metal and popular music and art and culture. Like one thing he talked about that I found very interesting was the American occupation of Japan post-World War II and how the Japanese population, how Japanese people kind of had to change and adjust a lot of what they do in order to make American military people in Japan more comfortable, in order to appease them. Suddenly they couldn't play their traditional Japanese music with traditional Japanese instruments. Suddenly now they were playing rock and roll and jazz and blues music. And this leads to rock and metal from Japan developing much more than rock and metal from other parts of Asia, and also becoming more popular and iconic than rock and metal from other parts of Asia. And this leads to people thinking that Andrew Lee must be Japanese because, well, he's a metal musician and he's Asian and all those Asians are alike, aren't they? So you must be Japanese. It is, in my opinion, a very interesting and informative video, very well researched and presented. I highly recommend you all check it out. I genuinely feel like I left that having really learned something. I am unfortunately probably in the minority, though, at least based on the kinds of reactions and comments that I'm seeing from people online thus far. And I want to make it clear, the kinds of reactions that I'm really seeing aren't really that deep. They're not that complicated. You're not really seeing people like actually trying to engage with Andrew Lee and in good faith and trying to debate him or counter him or provide context for whatever the fuck. It really is just people going like, shut up, Asia man. You're Asian. Shut up. Heavy metal can't possibly be racist or bigoted in any way. It can't possibly be these things because Rob Halford is allowed to be gay. Because this guy from this band is allowed to be black or Asian or queer or whatever. Like literally just like, oh yeah, Andrew Lee, you think heavy metal is racist? Well, explain this. There's a black guy playing drums in this grindcore band. Checkmate. And they think that that's a genuine fucking argument. There's also a lot of people that seem just generally upset with the overall premise of the video. And this one is also pretty easy to explain. A lot of people are just really uncomfortable with discussing white supremacy in any capacity at all. They're uncomfortable with talking about racism, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, sexism. They're uncomfortable talking about systems of power and abuse and how certain people are harassed and exploited and taken advantage of more than others. And this is a product of both cowardice and ignorance. It's people not wanting to have these conversations because they genuinely just don't want to. They want to live in a vacuum. They want to live in a bubble. They do not want to be reminded that real world issues and politics happen and often impact the art and the media and the metal that they consume and enjoy. And it's also people who do not have the ability to be open-minded enough and also do not have the knowledge to actually genuinely have these conversations. So they deflect. They resort to these very simplistic, tired, dated arguments. And it's worth noting that there are also people who just genuinely want heavy metal to be only for white, straight, cisgendered men. Period. End of story. They are neo-Nazis. They are white supremacists. They are fascists. They are bigots. And they think heavy metal belongs only to them. Nothing else should be here. Now, mind you, metal elitism and gatekeeping in metal is as old as metal itself. Really, there's no shortage of people who just very simply believe that you should not listen to metal, that you should not talk about metal, that you should not exist in the scene for pretty stupid, petty, childish reasons. Like, it's pretty normal for me at this point to hear that I shouldn't listen to or talk about metal, that I should delete my channel because I'm wearing a t-shirt from like Def Leppard or Code Orange or whoever the fuck, some fucking poser band that you've decided is a poser and therefore I'm not legit. Also, I shouldn't listen to or talk about metal, and I should delete my channel because I have comic books on my shelf or whatever the fuck. That's a very common one. Like, we've genuinely, unironically had people genuinely fucking triggered over the existence of comic books and just books in general on my shelf. It literally spawned this iconic Metal Meltdown meme. A book! This type of metal gatekeeper may seem more silly and harmless than the fascist, neo-Nazi, bigot metal gatekeeper, but they ultimately operate with the same kind of mindset, that you cannot and do not belong in metal unless you fit into a very, very, very specific box. And this has directly led to metal at times being a safe space of sorts for both bigots and also for people who are indifferent to bigotry. Because, guys, why do we have to make everything political? Can't we just separate the art from the artist? Can't we just compromise? Can't we just accept that, you know, we all have different beliefs, but we're all human and we just all need to get along? Guys, who cares if he's a Nazi or a transphobe? He makes great music. Can't we just agree to disagree? No, we can't. Side note, I have always found it very, very funny and ironic that many of the same hyper-centrist conservative folks who always preach separate the art from the artist in defense of the most horrible human being alive simply are incapable of doing so when it's a left-leaning, liberal, or woke artist. Like, everybody else is expected to make some kind of exception for your favorite bigot artist, but God forbid a left-leaning, liberal, woke artist say something about Palestine or trans rights or whatever. Grr! Suddenly politics do matter. Ain't that interesting? And this is where I really sympathize and identify with Andrew because, look, I'm a dumb white Canadian YouTuber talking about metal and drinking online for funsies. I recognize that my plight, if I can even really call it one, is nothing like that of the plight of Asian and African Americans and queer people and people of color and immigrants in the United States of America. It never fucking will be. I am coming from a place of absolute fucking privilege here. I am a very, very lucky human being. Even from this position, as a metalhead who is involved with metal culture and takes part in conversations and discussions about metal and listens to metal music, both online and offline, and also has a very large, diverse group of friends, I've still seen and experienced a lot of full-on discrimination and bigotry. Like, I remember years ago, in 2013, I was like 18 years old, and I went to go see Cannibal Corpse, Napalm Death, and Immolation at the Phoenix Concert Theater, and my friends Tyrone and Tyrell, who are black, were with me. And this is important to note because we were first in line, because we were young, dumb kids, and we were so excited to go to our first ever death metal show. And this guy fucking comes up, and he looks at Tyrone and Tyrell right away, and he goes, "You guys don't look like you belong here. What are you doing here?" And it was a very tense, kind of awkward moment. And to kind of cut the tension and to kind of break the ice, I kind of cracked a joke where it's like, "Oh, well, you know, Grandmaster Flash was sold out," and we had a giggle, we had a laugh, he kind of walked away, and that was that. And we didn't really think much of it at the time, but looking back, that was a moment where it's like, that was a very racist, rude thing for him to say to my friends, and I could have and should have done a better job at standing up for them. I also remember from 2015 going to the Rockstar Energy Drink Mayhem Festival, another friend of mine, David, who is also black. It was a big festival. Slayer, King Diamond, Whitechapel, Jungle Rot, Die Hard Is Murder, Code Orange, all these fucking bands were there. And this older lady kind of comes up to David, and she just kind of looks at him funny, and she kind of grabs him by the arm, like feeling him out. Like, it was a really weird fucking moment. And she's just kind of like, "We don't normally see your kind around here, but we're going to pretend that you belong here for the day because metal's like a big brotherhood and we're all going to have fun." And I just kind of watch him like awkwardly kind of smile and laugh. And yeah, I was just like, same thing, like, we're both just kind of like, let's get the fuck away from this fucking woman. And it was just so weird for her to be like, "You don't normally belong here. We're going to pretend you belong here." And then also be like, "Metal's a big brotherhood and we all belong here." And of course, we've never had a shortage of bigots and freaks here on the Metal Meltdown here in the comments section. Like, anytime I say non-binary pals in my kind of normal greeting, it really freaks people out. They get really upset. And we've seen people just straight up post like very racist, xenophobic, homophobic, neo-Nazi, white supremacist rhetoric and language in the comments section, saying objectively offensive, horrible fucking things, all because I gave their favorite album like a 3 out of 5 or some shit, all because I was like, "No, I don't want to listen to fucking Burzum or whatever the fuck, because fuck Varg." And people will tell me that I'm woke, I'm stupid, I should kill myself. I've been threatened with violence many a time as well. I've been called a variety of homophobic, transphobic, ableist fucking slurs, words I wouldn't dare repeat on this channel even for the sake of explaining my situation here. And then some fucking spineless liberal or fence-sitting both sides are bad centrist will pop on by and go, "Well, you need to find some kind of compromise. You just need to suck it up, buttercup." Somehow, every time, the burdens of responsibility and accountability are always being put on people of color, queer people, immigrants, and allies, rather than the people who are actually genuinely doing harm. They never have to change. They never have to compromise. We do. We need to find some kind of middle ground. We need to keep trying to build a bridge, even though some Nazi fucking bootlicker keeps trying to blow up the fucking bridge, with us on it! And this is a part of how, as Andrew Lee puts it, heavy metal upholds white supremacy. Horrible people say and do horrible things, and they're never expected to change. Separate the art from the artist. Try to find some kind of middle ground or compromise. Everyone else can get fucked. No woke shit. Metal is a brotherhood that's welcoming to all people, except you, because you're Asian. Also, aren't you in a Japanese band? Aren't all Asians the same or whatever? The most fascinating kind of reaction I've seen thus far from this entire endeavor, aside from hyper-racist comments that ironically and unintentionally proved Andrew Lee's entire argument correct, is the idea that Andrew Lee could be some kind of hypocrite because a record label that he co-owns called Nameless Graves sells albums from a band called Twisted Tower Dire, which apparently has one former member of famously hyper-racist metal band Arguslent within their ranks. This is something that the Facebook page Metal Hypocrites has dedicated their entire life and mission to at this moment. And that's not an exaggeration to say, because as far as I can tell, they exist solely right now to call out Andrew Lee for some kind of grand hypocrisy. And my potentially hot take is that the possibility of Andrew Lee being a hypocrite doesn't automatically destroy his entire argument. It should not downplay or dilute the importance of the things that he is saying. It does not erase the experiences that he and many people have had as minorities, as immigrants, trying to exist in the United States of America and trying to exist within a specific subculture of music. And the idea that it should or does is so gross and so dangerous, and also ironically does a good job at proving Andrew's entire point. And I want to make something clear. I'm not saying all of this because I want to be some kind of white knight or savior. I'm not trying to gain clout or hype or momentum. I'm not trying to score cultural points. These are things I actively believe in and agree with Andrew on. The idea that metal has to belong to a specific group of people, and the idea that I just have to accept that there are fascists and Nazis and bigots and white supremacists existing within this genre, and I have to try to find some kind of compromise with them, is so fucking stupid. And also, might I add, if you're not willing to ask the same of these white supremacists, of these metal gatekeepers, then maybe Andrew Lee isn't the hypocrite. Maybe you are. And like, if you truly do believe in the idea of this united global brotherhood of metal, where everybody is an outcast, but simultaneously we all belong because we want to listen to metal and we want to have fun, then you need to start putting your fucking foot down with some of these motherfuckers. True tolerance does not require you to be tolerant of people who are intolerant. Period. In conclusion, Andrew did nothing wrong. He was very brave to share these experiences and perspectives, and I hope that we can genuinely all work together to make metal the inclusive genre that so many claim it already is. That is sure as shit what I have done and will continue to do. And if you believe in that thing, then may I recommend you press subscribe, check out other videos, join us on Discord, check out Andrew's video as well if you somehow have not done so already. Be kind, be good, fuck fascists, fuck Nazis. I don't care if that statement offends you. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day. Cheers. Oh boy. I should probably eat something.